talking with Emily CHADICK WEISS, who is in Brooklyn, New York right now. We're talking about her TV pilot called The Share, which won at the Wildsound Festival. Emily, how's it going today?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
So you saw the reading of your script, The Share. What were your initial reactions?
I thought the actors were great, and it was very exciting to hear it aloud and see how they interpreted it. And also, I loved a lot of the Canadian accents because I never have Canadian accents in my head. And it's cool to think about where the script can go internationally, outside of Brooklyn, outside of the U.S.
I've never heard anybody with that reaction before about the Canadian accents. I guess, is it so distinct for you from someone from Brooklyn?
Yes, it is. And I think it's really charming.
That's amazing. Yeah. So because the Share is set in Brooklyn, correct?
Yes, it's set in Crown Heights.
So it's initially there's a certain accent and rhythm to the dialogue that we probably missed because of our Canadian.
I don't think you missed it, but it's just they don't sound like they're living in Crown Heights. They sound like or maybe they sound like Canadians living in Crown Heights, and I'm sure there are plenty of Canadians living around here.
Well, like I told you, I lived in Brooklyn for a year, so I'm sure there are. So
yeah. I have a couple Canadian friends in the city, and I'm always charmed by the accent.
Yeah, because I guess Brooklyn is, and especially the New York accent, it's very distinct. It's got this certain distinct kind of rhythm to it, I guess. So
yeah.
I was made fun of a lot of my accent, and I thought you had the accent, but that's how it goes, right?
Right.
So you called it the post-recession friends, which is a great little tagline to your script. What was how did you come up with this original idea of the show?
I've known for a long time that I wanted to write sitcoms, and I'm a playwright at the Ensemble Studio Theater in the playwriting group Youngblood. So I've been there for about 8 years now, and over that period, I met a lot of really talented actors, and I was inspired to write a script based on these actors and their talents. And I wanted to do something that was fairly easy to film if I wanted to produce it myself. And luckily, the actors all said yes, and I did end up producing it in May of 2011, and it's on the website www.thesharesitcom.com if people want to check it out. But so I was really inspired by their different personalities, and I wanted to do something that was sort of, similar to Friends, but much more relevant to...
And realistic?
Yeah, and, really about people who are, who have a tough time kind of getting by while they're trying to pursue their dreams and careers and men and women, and I love the idea of squishing them all into one apartment because that's how it really is in New York.
Yeah.
People just, they feel lucky to get a tiny room, and even if they can only fit their bed, it's like a real score, and then you end up you pay so much more than you would living anywhere else than New York City. So I wanted to capture that.
And there's like a certain, obviously, shenanigans take place with all the different personalities in that kind of closed-in space.
Exactly. There's a lot of frustration on sharing the bathroom, and the artist, Lincoln, actually lives in a closet and does his painting in the closet, and he has a crush on one of the girls who's an actress.
Yeah.
Justine, and she's like, oh, I would never get with someone who was living in a closet, but as an artist, he can't do any better than that.
And there's so many different kinds of opportunities for storylines with all the different characters that you created, because in the pilot, you center around the main guy who kind of is the fish out of water, which is a great way to set up a pilot, so you get to learn everybody through his eyes, but there's so many other places you could take these characters, correct?
Absolutely, and I wrote the second episode, which is called Lakeisha Schwartz, and I can imagine I have an ending in mind for season 1, and I'm excited to kind of outline the rest of the show, and hopefully, it'll get picked up and have a chance to see the whole season realized.
Yeah, the pilot's already doing well online because it fits into a certain demographic that people can understand as well, right?
Yeah, and I think whether you're a teenager and you might end up in this kind of situation, or you're middle-aged and you've already been in this situation, everybody can identify with, the apartment, the kind of claustrophobic feeling, or just pursuing someone who won't give you the time of day. I think it's really a universal show in that way.
There's also like that point of like, because I can speak from personal experience, because I've lived in a similar experience in this where people don't want to even live in this experience, but they just want to see it from afar. So that's why a show like this is cool, because most people don't really want to live in this kind of environment, but they like to see that environment. Yeah.
Yeah, it's always fun to see people suffer a little bit. And that's what I wanted to show. And I think, and throw in some comedy. It's not a tragedy. It's watching people make the most of this kind of difficult but funny situation.
And a little bit of romance too, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I always like to write a little romance and a little comedy in whatever I have.
And everybody kind of is trying to follow their dream, so to speak.
Exactly. And I think, in Friends, you get sort of this huge apartment and everybody kind of has money, but in the Share, people just have to struggle a lot more, and I think that's more realistic for 2013 and just people starting out in New York, or people who have kind of been around the block and know what it's like to be an actor or a magician's assistant, or to do your next career after you've been in finance and it hasn't worked out. So
yeah,
these people have to work a lot harder to do anything.
Well, the 90s were in perspective, were a pretty prosperous time. The economy was good. They were always in a surplus for a long time. Mm-hmm. There's new businesses that came in, so everybody was kind of doing well in general terms. But now everybody's kind of doing not so well, especially when you're trying to follow your dream, because it's so competitive. It seems like there's a surplus of people who want to create, I guess.
Yes, and there are not more jobs for creatives than there used to be. And it's even hard for people, in finance now, or doctors or lawyers. There's just not enough, not as much possibility to prosper like there was in the 90s.
There'll probably be a little bit of comparisons to Girls. What do you feel about the show Girls?
Oh, I think Girls is great, and I went to high school with Lena Dunham. We took some improvisation classes together, and she's great. I think that show, it's really gritty, and I think this show is a little more broad in its comedy, and it's for a little bit. The people in the show are a little older. They're late 20s, early 30s.
Yeah.
So it's more about that time of life, and also about I think there's more slapstick, more physical comedy in the show.
Oh yeah, whereas Girls is a show.
Lucy.
Yeah, Girls is more of a show, kind of like Girls is more of a show about like what it's almost like a dramedy in many regards. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is more light. This is when you want to just sit down, relax, and laugh. I think the Share is more for
But it's almost like where you hit a certain age and you just have to give up. So a lot of those characters are kind of like nearing that age. When you're in your 20s, you can't even imagine living in your 30s. You're still in that idealistic stage.
Exactly.
Yeah. You're laughing because you can relate, or?
Yes. Yes, and I think the characters on the Share, it's that feeling of I'm not going to give up, even though it would be so much easier to do that.
Yeah.
You just have to keep on going, even though it's not always pretty.
So in terms of the webisode, like you said, you had the cast kind of like, you got the idea originally from the cast members by spending time with them. Are you going to use the same? What's your plans for another? Are you planning on shooting all the webisodes? Like what's your plan?
Well, we have about 6 webisodes up on the Share website. And they all are kind of different character profiles. I think, right now my agent is sending the script around to various kind of executive producers in LA, and we're trying to make sure it's seen as a sample. So I think before I go ahead and shoot another one and do the whole production process, we want people to be acquainted with the script and the writing. And we'll see, if I could raise money to do another episode or a full season. I'm also looking into online opportunities, because I know there are some websites that like to produce new pilots for the web only. So those are some things I'm looking into.
And it seems to be especially, it seems to be because of Netflix and they have the Apple channel. There seems to be even all these superstar actors. I know that John Goodman has a show now. It seems like to be a big. It's like a big deal, and they had the rest of the development, and they had the one with what's that one that the Netflix that she's in jail kind of a thing. It seems to be.
Oh, the Orange is the New Black.
Yeah, Orange is the New Black. So it seems that there seems to be an audience for this, especially the new generation.
I mean, you can barely tell what's on TV and what's on the internet anymore. And I just got a Roku box, so I'll be watching most of what I'll be watching on TV will just be from the internet. So it's kind of crazy. That crossover is really changing things.
Yeah, and it's in no time everything would just be on demand. There probably won't even be the 8 o'clock time slot or something like that anymore.
Yeah, exactly. It seems like that's the way things are going.
Yeah, and it's a timely kind of script that you've written, and like I said, it's a room for hundreds and hundreds of episodes, because there's you define the characters in your pilot, so.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope there are hundreds and hundreds of episodes.
And you always need that Ross and Rachel kind of dynamic, which you created in the pilot.
Romantic possibilities to share.
People seem to always want to go back to an episode to see for that kind of dynamic. You ever notice that, in shows like this?
Yeah. The final moment when Ross and Rachel get together or break apart, just seeing their roller coaster of a relationship.
Yeah, exactly.
It's fun to track.
Fun to track. And the more when they're together, the ratings are down. But when they're broken up and there's tension, the ratings are up.
Exactly. You got to keep it difficult for them.
Yeah, exactly. So, is there anything else that you're on it that you're planning on shooting? Are you writing or a feature or more another pilot or?
I have another pilot I wrote called The Ground, which is about two dads who are, one's an actor and one's a musician, and they're kind of the primary caretakers for their young kids, and so they always meet up at the playground, and they call it The Ground. And it's about what happens when their families get together and they just always go too crazy. Like in the pilot episode, one of the mothers kind of gets too drunk and kisses the other mother, and the kids end up having some sort of 6-year-old physical thing going on upstairs.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of more family based than friend based. It's kind of like a Modern Family type thing.
But it also this goes with the same theme. You're kind of it's a recurring theme of how people come together in a sense, how.
Yeah. And this one is also set in New York, in Brooklyn, but it can kind of be anywhere, because it could be in Detroit or LA or anywhere where people are trying to be artists, and sometimes the dads take on the more of the parenting while the moms go and they're the breadwinners.
Yeah, and that seems to be another trend that's happening these days as well, right?
Yeah. And then I have a screenplay. It's a coming-of-age screenplay called Helping Yourself, and that's being shopped around by a producer. And then I have a commissioned play that's going up in January called Silver, and that's about the 2008 Chinese Olympic gymnasts and the science of determining age.
Yeah, I remember that. That was a huge controversy, because they had to be 14 to be in the Olympics, but they were all obviously 11 or 12.
Turning 16 in this.
16, yeah.
You're competing in the Olympics.
Yeah, they weren't 16 years old. I remember that.
Yeah, and I was actually at the Beijing Olympics that year, so I saw it firsthand, and I learned some Chinese, and it's really fascinating to me. So I'm excited to see the production.
Yeah, that is. It's because I remember they're almost like slaves, those gymnasts, in a sense.
Well, sometimes it's just the best option for families.
Of course, yeah. It's not that black and white, yeah.
Yeah, to put their children on that track, and sometimes the kids enjoy it. So
yeah,
it depends. I think it's it's a person by person basis. You know?
I just remember like thinking like you're on the balance beam and you've trained 4 years for one shot the balance beam, and then and it's so like random, like you could be great, you could not be great, like it's just so crazy how much pressure we're on these kids.
Yeah, and it's scary enough just to be on a balance beam, even if there's no pressure on you.
Yeah.
I used to do gymnastics, and it's pretty scary up there.
Yeah, but just like, but you're only doing it once. Like you're not doing it like best out of 5 falls. You know, like you're doing it once.
One shot.
It's crazy. Yeah, totally crazy. But it seems like you got a lot on the go. So congratulations for that. And like, we'll keep it's like I said. I think it's at over 1,200 after a couple weeks online. So the readings, so people are really seeming to like it and liking the connection with the actors, and they got the Canadian accents to boot.
Yeah, which I really enjoy. But it was great to see them, and I thought they all did a great job. It was so they really brought the script to life, so that was great to see as the writer.
Well, congrats again.
Thank you.
Thank you.